Hey there! If you're watching this video, make sure you stick around till the very end because the outcome of this amazing story will leave you speechless. Every day, members of the United States Armed Forces sacrifice time with their families. They sacrifice first steps and goodbyes, weddings and graduation, all while working to make the world a better, safer place for future generations. For those left back home, they are left with a number of uncertainties. Sometimes it is unclear how often they will be able to communicate, when they will get to visit, and sometimes whether or not they'll come home at all. For these courageous families of soldiers, typically happy occasions like anniversaries and Christmas serve only as a reminder of the sacrifices being made. Every year, millions of servicemen and women live away from their families, tending to bases around the world. In Germany alone, the United States has 21 military bases, each one requiring a massive staff dedicated to keeping everything running as it should. A specialist in the United States Army is a recruit who has brought with them specialized skills, commonly via a post-secondary degree or civilian job-related skills. Brooks Lindsey was one such Army specialist who was stationed at the Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. Fort Bliss is a massive military base that boasts the largest restricted airspace in the continental United States. A massive swath of sky that covers around 3,900 square kilometers. The space is mostly used for missile and artillery training along with testing. Brooks was just about 25 years old and was at the facility training for deployment overseas with the Mississippi National Guard. Brooks would be leaving behind his 22-year-old wife, Haley, who was pregnant with the couple's first child. It was a trying time for both of them. However, things became even more desperate when the doctors told the young couple that Haley was going to require an emergency induction due to fears of high blood pressure and preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is a condition that only occurs during pregnancy and causes, among other things, high blood pressure, liver and kidney dysfunction, and shortness of breath. When Brooks heard about all this, he immediately approached his commanding officer to find out if there was any way for him to be by his wife's side. Fortunately, he was granted emergency leave, and the next day he was on a flight from El Paso, Texas to Brandon, Mississippi. Unfortunately, though, he couldn't get a direct flight, and following El Paso faced a transfer in Dallas. A short while later, a group of strangers found the soldier crying and visibly distressed. It turns out Army Specialist Brooks Lindsey had every reason to be distraught. We'll tell you in just a moment what brought this brave soldier to tears. But first, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification icon right now. After you click the bell, comment Notification Squad below and I'll reply to all of you saying thanks. The birth of a child can be a moment of beauty and unity for an expectant mother and father. I can say with certainty that after months of preparation and anticipation, to finally get to meet the being that they have doted over and dreamt of since their first prenatal checkup is just something magical. Unfortunately, despite all of its beauty, the event of childbirth can occasionally be marred by the enormous range of potential medical complications that are also involved. When Army Specialist Brooks Lindsey learned that his wife, Haley, would have to have her labor induced due to the risk of preeclampsia and other factors, he was immediately granted emergency leave to be by her side during the ordeal. But during a stopover in Dallas, everything changed. During the connection, Brooks was informed that his flight was being delayed due to maintenance issues. Any other day, it might not have been a big deal. But at that same moment, he was receiving word from his wife that she was already in labor and he wasn't there. Distraught, he found himself at the mercy of the airline, and there was nothing he could do. Meanwhile, fellow passenger Jane Carpenter from Flora, Mississippi, couldn't leave him to be sad and alone, so she approached, Brooks still in his army greens and shaking with sorrow. She went up to him and asked him what was wrong. He told her the entire story. Luckily, Jane was a nurse, and she had seen her share of hospital situations, and she had a plan. On Jane's advice, Brooks phoned his mother who was in the room with Haley. Then, the two of them used their iPhones to initiate a FaceTime call. With FaceTime, Brooks was able to see his wife, and for the next several minutes, Brooks watched in amazement as his brand new and happy and healthy little girl, Millie, arrived into the world. Meanwhile, as the soldier sat against a nearby wall watching the stream intently, more and more people became aware of his story and began to gather around. The crowd even erupted into applause when they heard Millie cry for the first time.